is now 5:30, and we will call to order the May 28th, 2019 regular board meeting of the Richland 2 School Board of Trustees. And at this time, we will entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Shad.
I move that we convene the executive session for the purpose of discussing student appeals.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded that we will convene into executive session for the purpose of discussing student appeals. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we've got to pop up, we'll cast our votes. Okay. You got it. You have everyone else, Mrs. Sherman? Okay. By unanimous decision, 6-0, the motion carries, and we'll move into executive session. Good evening. The hour is now 6:30, and we are reconvening the May 28th, 2019 regular board meeting of the Richland 2 School Board of Trustees, where we have just come from executive session to discuss student appeals into the district. Before we get to our next item of business, which is item 3.1, inspirational moment, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll call you up after that. Mr. Manning will not be here tonight. He is witnessing and then celebrating the promotion of his daughter from 8th grade, so he won't be with us tonight. He sends his regrets. And at this time, we will move on to item 3.1, inspirational moment, and we'll have a visual presentation. Of course, thank you for working with us, Tony. That was an old movie, but one of my favorite, Facing the Giants. And I'm thinking of some of the things we heard there. Show me good effort. Keep going. That's a good start, only a little bit left. Give me the best. You keep going. Don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. Keep going. Don't quit on me. Your very best. Keep driving. Don't quit until there's nothing left. I know it's heavy. Now it's time to negotiate with your body to find more strength. It's all hard from here. I know you're tired. It's not too hard. Keep going. Don't quit. Don't you quit on me. 5 more steps. Can I count on you? Look up now. You're in the end zone. To our teachers, our administrators, our executive staff, to support staff, and everyone that makes the district work, because it's more than just the people in the classroom. Bless you for what you're doing. You're in the end zone in 7 more days. At this time, we will have Westwood High School's JROTC presenting the colors for us before we do the Pledge of Allegiance in honor of Memorial Day. Thank you all for being here. So we'll give them our attention. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did anyone else, aside from me, notice the girl power in the room? At this time, we're going to move on to item 4, specifically 4.1, approval of our agenda, and we'll entertain a motion at this time.
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Agostini.
I move to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, May 28th, 2019.
Thank you, Mrs. Agostini. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Dr. Caution Parker. It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the question at this time and cast our votes. By a vote of 6-0, the motion unanimously carries. Moving on in our agenda, we have arrived at item 5, special recognitions. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the board, we have before you for the May 28, 2019 Board of Trustees meeting, special recognitions. Ms. Libby Ruth will come before us this evening and share those recognitions with us. Ms. Ruth?
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Ms. Mackey, board members, I come before you with lots of examples of people just like in that video who kept working, kept pushing, and tonight we get to celebrate their touchdowns. So we will get started right away with our students from Richland Northeast High School who had perfect scores on the ACT. It is a very busy time of year, and we heard from a lot of them who aren't able to be here tonight, but all of them are listed for you. I do know that Gracie Boyce is with us. Gracie, you want to come on up front, and I'll ask your principal, Dr. Suber, to come up as well. I know I'm going to mispronounce this, so I apologize. Ihai Tohan? No. Why don't you come right here and say your name properly, sir? Perfect. Oh, yes. Would you give him a hug and tell? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. That's what Dr. Suber recommended. Just hug them when you mess up their names. So that's what she's doing for me. Is Laurel Davis here? Or Andrea Kent? Okay. So anyways, these are representatives of our perfect scores. And we have Gracie, who scored perfect on all the sections of the ACT. And thank you. See, scored perfect on the reading section. Now, many of us know that the ACT is an entrance exam used by most colleges and universities to make admission decisions. The purpose measures their student readiness for college. And I can certainly say, and I think you all would agree, that you are certainly ready for college, but also for whatever the future holds. And we congratulate you and best wishes for much more future success. All right, now I'd like to call for Temperance Williams from Ridgeview High School, your principal, Dr. Brenda Mack Foxworth, if you will join us, and your DECA advisor, Ronald Kegler. If y'all could come forward. I believe this is Miss Williams, Mr. Kegler, and Dr. Mack Foxworth. We want to congratulate Temperance tonight for winning first place in the public speaking contest at the South Carolina DECA competition. I'm pretty sure those who have a fear of public speaking are really, really impressed with you. And my assistant who helps me write my script says more people are scared of dying than they are of public speaking. So you have really made a touchdown tonight. Let me tell you a little bit about DECA. It prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management high schools and colleges around the globe. Its competitions are composed of various events that focus on the core clusters of DECA, which is hospitality and tourism, marketing, finance, business management, and entrepreneurship. At this year's conference, approximately 800 students from across the state took part in these competitive events, and out of all of those, our own student brought home one of the top awards. Congratulations. Congratulations. Next up, we want to recognize two students from Blythewood High School. Would Donovan Burton please come forward, along with your advisor from Jamie Connor and Principal Matt Sherman. Tillman Dillon, due to a family emergency, cannot be here tonight, but for the Dillon family, we want them to know that we have them in our thoughts. Donovan and Tillman took first place in competition at the Future Business Leaders of America State Conference. Donovan won first place for cybersecurity, and Tillman won first place for coding and programming. They both will move on and compete at the Nationals next month in San Antonio. FBLA prides itself in the development of young people in business or other career-related fields. Students participate in various competitive events to strengthen and hone their business skills. We wish you all the best as you represent Richland 2 on the national level. Congratulations. Speaking of future business leaders, next we call forward Avery Armentrout from Kelly Mill Middle School, and he is in the Ink Magnet program, along with your principal, Mark Sims, and lead teacher, Pam Bruni. Avery may be in middle school, but he knows more about stocks than probably, and bonds and mutual funds than probably all of us in this room combined. So much so that he won first place in the South Carolina Invest Right competition. He won first place in the middle school division by recommending an investment portfolio described in his Invest Right essay. He was chosen as the state winner through rigorous judging by hundreds of teachers and industry professionals, who evaluate students' understanding of long-term investing, diversification, global capital markets, and much more. Very impressive. Congratulations. Mr. Sims, will you stay up there with Ms. Mackey? Because we're going to ask one of your outstanding science teachers, Warren Wise, to please come forward. After being named the Midlands Region STEM Teacher of the Year, Mr. Wise was named the inaugural South Carolina STEM Educator of the Year on STEM Education Day down at the celebration at the State House. He was selected from more than 250 nominees and a field of 5 finalists. The award, sponsored by Comporium, South Carolina Future Minds, STEM 2 Centers, and the STEM Development Foundation, honors teachers who are inspiring students across the state to develop a passion for STEM subjects. Mr. Wise was selected for making a significant difference in the lives of students by providing an excellent curriculum, encouraging lifelong learning, and inspiring a passion for STEM beyond the classroom and into the future. In accepting his award, Mr. Wise thanked his fellow teachers who push him to become a better educator. He says they have friendly competitions against each other to try to inspire the kids. He says his interest in science was sparked by a childhood love of the TV show MacGyver. and its resourceful, hands-on lead character. Well, Mr. Wise, you are our MacGyver in STEM classroom and STEM teaching. We are so proud of you. Congratulations. Richland, too, has long been recognized and respected for its magnet programs. Earlier this year at the same conference of the Magnet Schools of America, where Dr. Suber was named Principal of the Year, several of our schools were recognized for their distinguished programs. If the principal and employees will come forward as I call your name. From Forest Lake Elementary, we have Principal Dr. Cappy Steck and Magnet Lead Teacher Marion Marion. This year, the Elementary Learning Collaborative at Forest Lake has been named a Magnet School of Excellence. And Forest Lake received a Magnet Schools of Distinction for the NASA Explorer School-wide Magnet. From Ridgeview High School, Principal Dr. Brenda Mack Foxworth, Magnet Leads Jennifer McLeod and Nicole Walker. The Institute of Biohealth, which is overseen by, and Science, thank you. overseen by Ms. McLeod, as well as the Scholars Academy, which is overseen by Ms. Walker, at Ridgeview, both received Magnet School of Distinction awards. Now for Richland Northeast High, Dr. Sabrina Suber and IB Magnet Director, Dr. Sonia Merriweather Hawkins, The International Baccalaureate Program, and Denise Fowler, thank you. Can I give her a hug? Denise, come here, let me give you a hug. Dr. Suber, you've got me a top today, thank you. Okay, will you? That's perfect. Can I take you with me everywhere I go when I mess up? You can give hugs for me. So from Richland Northeast, the International Baccalaureate Program received a Magnet Schools of Distinction Award. We had another school, Spring Valley, receive an award. They couldn't be here tonight because they're actually having a senior night for their Magnet students, so they will be coming to another meeting. These awards recognize that the schools have demonstrated commitment to high academic standards, curriculum innovation, successful desegregation and diversity efforts, and consistent delivery of high-quality educational services to all stakeholders. Very impressive. We are so proud of your schools. Congratulations. Great. Thank y'all. And that concludes tonight's special recognitions. I'm going to go out to the lobby and give hugs for all my faux pas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Roof. I think aside from having young folks participate in things like presenting the colors, special recognitions is always my favorite part of the meeting, so we appreciate your bearing with us. We have now arrived at item 6, our consent agenda in the meeting. At this time, we will consider a motion to approve the same.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Shad.
I move that we approve the consent agenda for May 28, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Dr. Holmes. It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, well, we've got a pop-up already. Hearing none, we will cast our votes. By a vote of 6-0, the motion unanimously carries. And we have now arrived at item 7 in our agenda, specifically 7.1, public participation. Just like to remind all of our speakers that you have a time limit of 3 minutes to speak. Please be sure to identify yourself. You don't have to give your address, and refrain from speaking with regard to specific teachers or schools or students, if you don't mind. And the first person up is, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Alexa Bigworth? Bigworth, I'm sorry. Oh, it's an F, okay, my apologies. You may begin, the light's already on, so you may begin.
All right, thank you. Good
Yes, ma'am.
evening. My name is Alexa Bigworth. I'm the mother of 3 children who are here in the district, students at Summit Parkway Middle School and Bookman Road Elementary School. I grew up in Richland too, graduated from Richland Northeast in 1995, and I love having my kids in the district. But I am worried about their safety, particularly my 12-year-old at this point in time, who is a 6th grader at Summit Parkway Middle School. I was recently made aware that there's a cell phone tower placed on this campus and plans for 40 towers district-wide. I do have specific questions about the tower that I don't expect you to answer tonight, and I will be emailing these as well, and we have requested a meeting with you, and thank you for responding so quickly on that. But the questions that I have are, 1, what type of tower is this? It appears to be a 5G tower, but this is not noted on the milestones map. If it is a 5G tower, my concerns amplify. 5G technology is newer, but it's also been shown to penetrate 1 to 2 millimeters of human skin tissue and has been linked to a number of potential health problems, including, but not limited to, eye problems, impacted heart rate, higher levels of pain, burning sensations, suppressed immune function, depressed growth, and increased antibiotic resistance. I was especially concerned by a recent controlled 2-year scientific study that examined in particular the neurologic effects of children ages 13 to 16 in schools with cell towers nearby. The study revealed a significant decline in cognitive scores when the radiation from the cell tower was higher, but still at non-thermal levels. So this indicates a negative impact even within normal ranges. So again, a cognitive decline over 2 years, even within normal ranges. 2, how regularly are these being monitored? Not long ago, the Wall Street Journal published an article about a study that was conducted in which more than 5,000 towers across the U.S. were examined. The results of this showed that 1 in 10 of these sites actually leaked higher levels of RF than what is in safe standards. And these safe standards are old and go on different equipment. Number 3, who monitors the levels and what is done with that info? 4, what happens if the RF is outside of safe levels? Are there protocols in place? 5, are we tracking any kind of data on the students? Are they experiencing any of these symptoms? 6, are parents aware that there's a tower on school grounds so that they can determine if they'd like to maybe go elsewhere? And 7, how much input do the schools get? I understand that before the tower was placed, there was a safety meeting and safety briefings, but since 2016, a lot more information has come to light about these topics, and I think we should consider. And you know, your message was very impactful in the moment earlier, and I'd like to just ask, are we setting up our students to be able to give their very best? And thank you very much for your time and for considering.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Bigworth. Next, we'll hear from Romeo Jones. Is that correct, Romeo? All right. And the light is already lit, so just speak directly into it. Thank you so much.
All right. Good evening. I don't have any prepared remarks, but I did want to come and speak from the heart. So I live in the Lake Carolina subdivision. I have a rising kindergarten and a rising fourth grader. In early 2018, we took out a tumor that ran the length of my son's spinal cord. Since then, we've had to learn how to walk and regain his lower extremities. It's been a long road. We're starting to walk again. We're still kind of using the wheelchair. But when you think about pediatric cancer, that's real big, especially when it hits your child. The first thing that comes to mind is, let me have it. Let me take over it and let my child be back to normal. From my research, speaking, dealing with these cell towers, I found that most of the data is kind of outdated from what I've been able to pull up, and also it is more so reference the effects on an adult, not a child. So for me, as a parent, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't come and just kind of speak to that. From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if you can correct me, but I think we gain about $40,000 per cell tower. So when I think about that, in my mind, it's just not worth the risk. I know the multiple towers, so it would be 40 times how many towers where the school district is able to have. It's just not worth the risk when we don't know. From what I've read and spent my time pursuing, for every report that says it is safe, there's another report that says it's not safe. And again, for me as a parent, dealing with a child that's dealing with cancer and the spinal cord, that's a very major thing. It's just not worth the risk for me, And I think I'll close with saying sometimes I like to tell our friends I'm from Detroit, all money isn't good money. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for your comments. Next, we'll hear from Mark Dyer.
Good evening. My name is Mark Dyer.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm a social studies teacher at Blythewood High School. I'm also the vice president of the Richland County Education Association. I come before you to look for some clarity here on one of the policies that's going to be introduced today. It's GCMD, Instructional Staff Extra Duty. The policy is very vague from a teacher's point of view, and I'm hoping, I know you can't give me some feedback right now, but maybe when it's introduced, there can be some discussion. I have a question as to what the difference between a reasonable duty and an extra duty assignment is, because the policy seems to draw a distinction between those two. And that's important because a reasonable duty is not compensated with extra pay, yet an extra duty assignment is. And so shedding some light on what duties are reasonable and what constitute, quote, a major demand on a teacher's time, which would constitute the superintendent's discretion as to whether those duties should be compensated. I think that needs to be clarified in the policy. And I'll give you a couple examples. The policy does say that lunch duty, hall duty, bus duty is reasonable, and that makes sense. But for a high school teacher like myself, we do lunch duty once a week. Like my lunch duty is on Wednesday, and it's just that Wednesday each week. But from an elementary school teacher's point of view, oftentimes those lunch duties happen on a daily basis, and they never have a duty-free lunch. And so is that a reasonable duty? I don't know, and I'd like to see some clarity there. Another example would, of course, be extra help hours. So at the high school level, we're required as teachers to provide extra help hours after school for our students, which of course I think makes sense. We want to do what's best for the students, but at the same time, if I'm being asked to constitute an extra or to give an extra 2 hours of time per week unpaid, that sounds like it's a major demand on my time that would maybe warrant extra compensation. I don't know. That's why I'm looking for clarity. And the last point I'll make is that if an extra duty assignment is being defined as just sponsoring extracurricular clubs or sports teams, I'm curious as to how it's decided that certain extracurricular clubs or sports teams, those sponsors get compensation versus others that don't. So for example, I sponsor 2 clubs, Model UN and the Cyber Patriots. One, I'm afforded compensation, Model UN, the other, Cyber Patriots, I'm not. And so both require time outside of my normal school schedule, and I don't know how we parse where one sponsorship warrants extra pay and the other does not. So I'll leave it at that, and I look forward to hearing back from you. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to share your comments with us. I appreciate that. That concludes our public participation portion of our meeting. We were able to get through all of them during the first session, so there'll just be one. Next, we move on to item 8, legislative update. Mr. Shad.
Nothing to report, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Well, that was easy. Moving on to item 9, specifically 9.1, student appeals. At this time, we'll entertain a motion or several thereof with regard to the same.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Shad.
with regard to student number 3, this will be a pullout. But the first motion is for students 1, 2, and 4. I move that these students return to their home schools with strict probation and services.
Thank you, Mr. Shad, for your motion. Is there a second? Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion at this time? Hearing none, we will call for the question. And before we cast our votes, Mr. Shad, if you'll just verify the accuracy of your motion on screen as you have presented it.
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. We'll call the question and cast our votes at this time. Did you cast your vote? Okay, all right. She voted in the affirmative.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Shad,
I move that student number 3.
oh, hold on just a moment. Okay, by a vote of 6-0,
Sorry.
that's okay. Your initial motion carries unanimously. And if you will share your motion with regard to student 3.
I move that student 3 attend Blythewood Academy for 45 days.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. It's been moved and properly seconded that student 3 be remanded to Blythewood High School for a period of 45 days. I'm sorry, Blythewood Academy. I'm sorry. Blythewood Academy for a period of 45 days. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the question. Oh, well, we've got to pop up, so we'll cast our votes. And my apologies, I had BWA and read it BHA. BH. By a vote of 4-2, the motion carries. Moving on in our agenda to item 10, new business, no action requested. Dr. Davis.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we have before you the new business, no action requested. This consists of policy revisions. Following policies we will discuss with you this evening will be policy revision GCG, part-time and substitute professional staff, employment, GCI, professional staff development, GCKA, support staff and reduction in force, GCMD, instructional staff, GCNA, supervision of instructional staff, as well as GCO, the evaluation of administrative staff, and Mrs. Williams will stand to assist with any questions or concerns.
And what we'll do is we'll just go one by one and see if anyone has any questions or concerns. Specifically, number 1, GCG, part-time and substitute professional staff employment. Are there any questions or concerns or need for clarification with regard to that policy? Mrs. Agostini?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to give me a little bit of background, that might help me answer my question. How are substitute teachers assigned to a school?
Substitute teachers actually can go in through our call system or our internet system and log on and choose a position at their school.
So the teacher picks,
No, ma'am. A substitute, if you're a substitute.
or excuse me, the substitute
The
picks
substitute
where they
picks.
want to.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, the location.
So then my concern is on the second paragraph where we have, it appears to me, we've crossed out to the greatest extent possible. I would like to see that put back in because it says to the greatest extent possible, if that's included, substitute teachers should possess the training and experience to ensure that students will receive uninterrupted instruction when regular teacher has to be absent. Substitutes are expected to provide educational services rather than to provide for mere substitution or supervision of students. I'm thinking about at the high school level, when we've got AP courses, do we really have qualified people to continue the education, or is that self-instruction for the student?
It's the instructions that the teacher has left in class for the substitute to carry out the lesson plans for the day.
So say it's for a week. Is it uninterrupted instruction?
We would like for it to be.
I know it's the will of the board, but I would like to see to the greatest extent possible put back in there. I just find it very hard to believe that we're going to always be able to find that right teacher with those right skills, that sometimes it is, a supervisory position versus an actual teaching position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Agostini. Are there additional comments, questions, or concerns with
Chair.
regard to this possible?
Madam
Dr.
Chair.
Elkins Johnson?
I can support Lindsay's recommendation. Also, to answer Lindsay's question, teachers can also request subs. I think you only stopped at one point, but also teachers can request subs.
Yes, ma'am. You can have your favorite 5 subs.
Right.
Each teacher can have their favorite 5. That is
Yes.
correct.
I know that wasn't mentioned, so I
Yes.
wanted her to be aware
Thank
that
you.
teachers also have that option.
Yes, ma'am.
Questions or concerns from board members with regard to the recommendation that's been set forth? Okay.
I think, and also just to add it will be important for us in making this change. I get the sense that the remainder of the board is okay with the edit to this statement, since there's no one in opposition of Ms. Agostini's recommendation. It would be important for us, just for a point of clarification for our audience as well and our parents and the community, we make it the extent to place highly qualified subs or as many highly qualified subs in all classes, particularly those students who are the most needy when it comes to educational needs. So those students who may be at content or grade levels, as well as our AP students, as well as our special education students. So we try to find the best and highly qualified person. So sometimes it means moving a person who would be extremely highly qualified to an area to sub where the most needy students academically may exist. But we make every effort to make sure that the greatest extent possible is is something that we strive to achieve. So great recommendation. Thank you, Ms. Agostini.
Okay. Has every board member spoken with regard to the same? I think I thought that I understood with the preposition stricken at the beginning of the sentence that I think the district is trying to, place the emphasis that the substitutes should possess that training, not will, but they should. So I think that your emphasis was to make sure that your expectation is to have highly qualified people. So I understood why it was stricken, but I'm happy to go with the will of the board. We've got 3 board members who've spoken so far. Okay, if silence is, Dr. Holmes?
I'm fine with going with Ms. Agostini wants on there.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions or concerns with regard to this policy?
Madam Chair, I have just one more question, and Dr. Davis sort of hit on it. What is the obligation of a sub if they accept for one area and then are asked to go to another area? For example, if they were in a normal classroom setting and then it turns out that special needs a teacher, a substitute, can that substitute refuse to go to the other room and stay in the room that they had committed to teaching, or what is the obligation there?
They could refuse. That does not happen very often, but in some cases they may. However, the discretion of moving personnel around is at the principal level, the administration level. So if there's a need in a particular classroom and they can cover a certain classroom a different way, then they will move that sub to where the sub is needed. The expectation is that the sub would then go to the new assigned location at that time.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. If there are no other questions or concerns with regard to policy GCG, we will move on to policy GCI, professional staff development. Are there any questions or concerns from board members with regard to this policy?
I have a question.
Dr. Elkins-Johnson.
Not so much about this. I think my question, I addressed this last year to Dr. Davis. I get several telephone calls and emails from teachers stating that the same teachers in their school is allowed to attend professional development. And I think you were supposed to bring something back, or you guys are working on that. How do we make sure that it's equal across the school district as well as in the schools, that every teacher or the teachers that need this professional development have an opportunity to attend, and not the favorite teachers or the favorite coworkers of some of our leadership? So how can we make sure it's equitable?
Speak to that, Dr. Davis.
Is that
That's what she wanted to ask of you.
Because I know we talked about it before, that there are some teachers in schools that will go to their administrators and request to go to a workshop or a conference, and they're told no, but then Sally Sue may have gone to 5 or 6 conferences, but this one teacher or another teacher can't go to any. So how do we decide that?
It's decided at the school level based on the professional development that the teacher asked to attend. Principals will assign professional development opportunities to specific teachers based on, it could be based on a particular program that person may oversee. And so and then there's also the professional development for staff, that each school is required to have a professional development plan that all staff is exposed to. If there are specific professional development opportunities that arise, the principal has the discretion to assign that professional development to a particular person that meets the need of that specific job that the professional development is aligned with. So for example, if the professional development may be centered around technology and integration of technology, the TLC at that school may be assigned the opportunity to go to that technology summit or that technology training, and maybe not someone else. If there's a program where it focuses on special education issues, then a special education teacher will be assigned to that professional development based on the priority and the need of that school and that teacher. I don't know of any situations, but I will not say that does not exist. One of the best ways for us to get a handle on whether or not that's something is if a teacher has been denied an opportunity to attend professional development, they can appeal that denial through our board policies. They can appeal that denial to the assistant superintendent, to the superintendent's office. They feel this isn't direct. This professional development is something they need in order to better do their jobs. But we don't have a practice or plan in place at this moment that would monitor the equity of how professional, or the equalness of how professional development is doled out. More so, the expectation that it's equitably doled out so the people who need specific professional development in certain areas would get it.
Thank you, Dr.
And
Davis.
thank you, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Dr.
Thank you,
Caution Parker.
Davis.
Oh.
Thank you for that. And I noticed last year you mentioned that you'll make sure that you keep an eye on that. I would request that you do that again this year, because I have received several phone calls and emails, but I refer them back to their principal, because I just think that's best for you to have that conversation at the principal, since it's coming my way. But I want you to be mindful that I am receiving those calls, but I direct them back to the principal. But this coming year, I'm going to direct them to you so you guys can make sure you look at it, because there's only certain schools that this is occurring in.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ellis Johnson. I would appreciate that greatly. Thank you.
Dr. Caution Parker.
One thing that, and as a former principal and deputy superintendent over approving principals to go to professional development, you have to look at their absenteeism. Have they been absent more, I don't want to say more than they've been there, but you have to look at that, how often they've been out of the classroom. Is it relevant to what they're teaching that they can bring back to the school and to the classroom? So there's a lot of other variables that you have to look at and you have to consider when you're talking about approving for a teacher to be able to go on professional development. And the same thing with principals. Same thing with principals. I've had to turn down principals over the years. No, you can't be out of your building at this time. You've been out twice already. In the past 3 months, you cannot be out of your building again. So there's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration regarding professional development. Professional development is critical. It's the heartbeat of the school, but you still have to be very careful about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Caution Parker. Are there additional questions or concerns from board members with regard to this policy? Hearing none, we will continue on to policy GCKA, support staff reduction in force, pro rata reduction in salary and/or workdays. Questions, comments, or concerns from board members?
Madam Chair.
Mrs. Agostini?
Just a quick insert suggestion for the second page, under review of individual termination. Throughout the policy, it's been very consistent when it makes reference to days of 10 days, 5 days in communication. The last two sentences just say 10 days and don't have calendar. So I'd love to see it be consistent and use the word calendar. Do you see what I'm talking about? Okay, thank you.
Additional questions from board members with regard to this policy? I know that silence is consent, so we will assume that, so I'm fine with that. I'll go on record to say I'm fine with that. Otherwise, silence is consent. Hearing no further questions or concerns with regard to that policy, we'll move on to policy GCMD, supervision of instructional staff. Questions or concerns from board members? Dr. Holmes.
Since we had a concern in the audience, I would like to ask you, what is considered, let's get clarity, what is considered extra duty, so that we have a little bit of clarity on that.
And Dr. Davis, if you can assist me on this, but extra duties that I would assume is staying, coming in the morning for early duty, bus duty, cafeteria duty. Those are what I would consider extra duties.
I figured that. I'm in education too, 34 years. I knew that that's what it was, but since there was a concern in the audience, I think there's a concern that it's a little vague for most people, because they didn't want it to be that the principal asked them to stay 3 days out the week after school to do homework assignments, which is not in the scope of their job. So so you are saying, let me make sure I'm clear, extra duty is things that are typically considered extra duty in the school system, bus duty, PTO meetings, et cetera, considered, those are the things that you're talking about, correct?
In addition to making sure that our students are supervised at all times.
Okay, within the scope of the day?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. Dr. Elkins Johnson?
Yes, and just my question, it mentions PTO and PTA meetings. I know also as an educator and a former school administrator, teachers are not required to attend PTO or PTA meetings. Are you in reference to the parent meeting or when you have a PTO night? Because there's a difference as to when teachers should attend, and that's not clear up there.
I think in response to that, Dr. Elkinson, that's a good question. There's a myriad of list of things that we could list that's expected of a teacher beyond the normal day of work. So it would be very arduous to list every expectation of a teacher. And so it says things like to PTO meetings and to attend other school events when requested by the principal or director of the school. So let's say, for example, there is a parent night, but this parent decided to do a fourth grade math night. The expectation would be that you would make an attempt, a reasonable attempt to attend those things. I think limiting the terminology expectation or limiting the terminology of reasonable duties could give the latitude that you don't have to come to those things should you choose not to come to those things. We did strike out the extra duties may include the daily class participation and attendance and things of that nature. When we say reasonable duties over and above their regular teaching responsibilities, again, within reason, what would be a reasonable duty? I think during our public participation, that is a good question. Unfortunately, I don't know if you can just solely identify each and every aspect of a reasonable duty, because what's reasonable to one teacher who may go above and beyond may be very minimum for someone who just wants to do the very basic. It's 3:30 and I'm out the door. There are some who are going to stay after school and do the extra work. There are some that are going to pull kids at lunch to do tutoring. There are some that's going to bring materials from home to help the kids. And so it's reasonable. And unreasonable would be to ask a teacher to do something that is totally outside of the scope of a normal traditional expectation of what a caregiver or an educator is. And so to demand or require that you donate or dedicate 100 additional hours of after-school time would be an unreasonable thing to ask of a teacher. But it's not unreasonable to ask to stay after school for a meeting, but to stay after school for a meeting every night is unreasonable. So I think it's going to be very difficult when reviewing these policies to come up with very succinct things where it doesn't give us any flexibility, but having a professional understanding and respect for classroom teachers, as well as having a respect for the expectation of what the job entitles as a teacher and administrator, to have a professional work and understand to work together to determine what that may be at certain schools. Sometimes the expectations is higher somewhere else than it is than in other school districts. Our district has a different philosophy when it comes to extra help. I've been other places where there is none. So.
Dr. Holmes, and then Mrs. Agostini.
I'd like to thank you, Dr. Davis, for making that clarification. Being in education myself, I kind of knew what it was, but I think the general public needed to hear an answer to that. So anything that would be out of the scope would be unreasonable. And I think it's important that that was put on the record out loud so that teachers wouldn't feel like they had no voice in that particular decision. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. Mrs. Agostini.
Thank you. As I read this again, the board expects all teachers to attend functions of their respective schools, such as open houses or PTO, PTA meetings. I'm wondering either if we can scratch the meetings and put in events, or just take that all together, because to me, still reading it as policy and leaving it as it is implies to me that teachers are expected to go to these PTO and PTA meetings.
I would suggest, I would state that it should be an expectation that teachers are expected to attend PTO and PTA meetings and to attend other school events when requested. That's one sentence, when requested by the principal. So it's not stating that you are expected to attend every PTA or PTO meeting, but it's saying that when it's requested, that you would attend.
I'm sorry, I'm reading it, and to attend other school events when requested. That's, to me, other events, not including open houses I would expect a teacher to be at each time. So I'm reading the policy different than what you are.
We stand ready. We will stand ready
Dr.
for recommendations from the board.
Dr. Elkins-Johnson?
And back to PTO and PTA meetings. Teachers are not required to attend a PTO meeting, but if it's PTO night, that's totally different. So why don't we just scratch through that and include events? Because PTO meetings normally have one teacher representative, one parent, and then the community. So teachers are not required to attend that. So I think that's where part of the confusion is coming for me,
Sure.
because that's not a requirement.
It's at the will of the board. I think I read it as giving examples of things to attend. I know School Improvement Council, SIC, is not listed. That's one of the things where you have specific teacher representatives who are assigned to the SIC. That's not listed either, but that's an example. So I read it as, I don't read it as a mandate. I read it as an example, but I stand ready to address the will of the board.
I think administration be able to bring something back that is palatable for the board and recommendations to clearly articulating that there's an expectation, not a mandate. And I want to be clear with that, an expectation. And it's okay to have expectations. There's an expectation for, we don't have it listed here, but there's an expectation for administrators to be on duty at football games and to stay there until the last student leaves at 11 p.m. Yeah. There's an expectation to come to work every day. There's an expectation to give your very best. So I think it's important that we don't do that, but I think we can come up with something that's palatable for the board, and I think for our teachers as well, where it states that the board expects all teachers to attend functions of their respected schools and events as requested by the principal or director of the school. I think we can do that. Yes, ma'am. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Or if there are no other questions or concerns with regard to this policy, we will move
Madam
on.
Chair.
Oh, Mr. Shad, I'm sorry.
Just a question, and then depending on the answer, I'll have a suggestion. On that first paragraph, the association is suggesting to strike out teachers and put in instructional staff. Is there a difference?
Yes, sir.
So in that case, and since it's titled instructional staff extra duty, any place that we have teachers, shouldn't that also be struck and put instructional staff?
In this policy, Mr. Shad, or just in general?
No, in this policy. For example, the third paragraph, the board expects all teachers, that should be changed to instructional staff.
That's affirmative.
The fifth paragraph, the superintendent may consider activities and services that make major demands on a teacher's extra time. That should be changed to instructional staff's extra time. That would be my suggestion as well. And I don't know, I think I like
Turn your mic on.
keeping the fourth paragraph, parent-teacher meetings. I'd like to keep that one. But those are my two suggestions.
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Questions or concerns from board members?
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Holmes. I'm sorry, I didn't see your light.
There is a difference between instructional staff and teaching staff. Some of your secretaries, or your, I'm not secretaries, but your instructional assistants, that's instructional staff. Some of them are not expected to come to some of these meetings. So I think we need to be careful about just saying instructional staff and not teachers also. Because your instructional assistants, aren't they classified as instructional assistants? They don't have to come to certain meetings that are required of a teacher.
That is correct. That they wouldn't have to come. Your instructional staff would be like your school counselors, your reading coaches.
Well, no, your counselors are considered teachers. Your counselors have to come to those same meetings as a teacher.
Yes, ma'am. So the instructional staff would incorporate like your reading coaches, your coaches in your school, anybody that has a certificate and that is on a teacher contract.
Right, but the guidance would be included in the teacher staff because they are certified.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes.
All right.
And just as a point of clarification, when addressing the concern brought up by Dr. Elkins-Johnson, that part of this, the policy will state when requested by the principal and the director. So there may be times where instructional staff may be asked to do something that may not be classroom, teachers, but they are also governed by a different compensation if they are hourly employees, which of course we would follow if we did ask them to do something in addition. Yes, but we will be aware of that and make sure that is taken care of. Yes, ma'am.
Just as a recommendation, since you're already going back to look at something else in this policy, maybe you can make the determination where teachers should stay in and instructional staff should be. Dr. Davis, just a recommendation, Mr. Shad, in light of Dr. Holmes' comments, but we are at the will of the board. If there are no other questions or comments with regard to this policy, we'll move on to policy GCNA, supervision of instructional staff. Questions or comments from board members? Hearing none, we'll move along to the policy revision to GCO, evaluation of administrative staff. Questions or comments from board members?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Agostini.
I'm trying to, my apologies. I am looking at the last couple of paragraphs where the School Boards Association took the language, I'm sorry, it's the bottom of page 1, beginning of page 2 on GCO. So basically, they took the language out. We added this language back in, but we opted not to include compensation and promotion. For the district will utilize the results from principal evaluations and decisions regarding principal development, retention, and removal. I'm just curious why we did not put back in compensation and promotion in there.
We don't use, right now, we don't use principal evaluations for the purpose of compensation. If you're on a salary schedule as a principal, then that's your compensation. If you are on a negotiated contract, then that's your compensation at that time.
Okay, and what about promotion?
It's similar.
So we won't use an evaluation to determine whether somebody should be promoted or not?
It's a part of it. It can be used as a part of it, but it's not solely the instrument that we use to determine if you're going to be promoted or not. There are other components to determine the promotion. If you're going from principal to director or executive director and things of that nature, we typically don't necessarily pull up the evaluation to determine if you are being promoted to that level.
You don't use the evaluation to determine whether somebody's going to be promoted. Am I understanding you correctly?
If you're moving from promotion from principal to say, it's not just one piece of the evaluation, of the promotion. There are multiple things that go along with making that determination.
Well, so I understand that. So it sounds to me like the evaluation would be used as part of a promotion.
It could be, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we put that back in then?
If I get some clarification, if you don't mind, let me get some clarification with administrative staff to see what the recommendation for that particular removal of the compensation piece.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns from board members with regard to this policy? And if I understand correctly, I understood what you said, Dr. Davis. You're just asking for clarification with your staff to get back to it. And if I understood correctly, you were trying not to tie your hands with regard to that paragraph to give you latitude, but we will wait to hear from your staff. Thank you, Dr. Davis. If there are no additional questions or concerns, that exhausts the policies on the table tonight for no action requested. And we will move on to item 10.7.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Dr.
Before we
Johnson.
move on, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Davis, and your team and staff for placing it up on the wall so we can see. So thank you. Really appreciate that.
Item 10.7, update on leadership development. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the board, we have before you this evening Ms. James Ann Sheely, who will share an update with you regarding growing premier leaders in Richland School District 2. Dr. Sheely.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Davis. It's my pleasure tonight to share with you the work that Dr. Franklin, Mr. Price, and I are doing in collaboration with Teaching and Learning and Accountability to build leadership capacity in our district. It is important to note that our focus supports the Richland District 2 strategic plan, as well as the I Lead, Inspire, Lead, exhibit a sense of urgency, achieve premier results, and demonstrate integrity and character at all times. Our presentation for you tonight is divided into 4 areas of focus: blazing the way to systematic leadership, building and expanding capacity, providing structure for all to pursue their passions, and planning for next steps. First, we'll begin with the systematic development of protocols. During the 2017-18 school year, we began our work with Dr. Jen Morrison. Over the last 2 years, she has guided our process with data literacy and has helped us to develop systematic protocols throughout our district, which include assessment reviews, data protocols, and how to use various types of data to inform decisions, including process data. Last year, our professional application school principals and assistant principals had the opportunity to participate in lunch and learns after key leaders with Dr. Morrison, Teaching and Learning, and Accountability to better build systematic protocols within their schools and throughout the district. As is our practice, our beginning of the year in-service includes a culture focus, and last year, Chris Edmonds shared the culture engine with us. This school year, based on input from our principals, we focused on cognitive coaching, which was led by 3 coaches from STEM Development, STEM Centers SC. For our culture focus, Ms. April Lewis, transformational speaker, consultant, and best-selling author, shared proven principles to enhance quality of life, increase productivity, and improve effectiveness. We have 6 initiatives that we coordinate to build leadership capacity with teacher leaders, assistant principals, and principals. Our training administrators program, TAP, is for teachers who may have an interest in school leadership. A teacher per school has the opportunity to experience topics that you see on the screen, as well as specific assignments designed to give him or her a better view and feel of what it feels like to be a school administrator. TAP has been around for a while and continues to be a successful first step towards school leadership for many of our teachers. For our beginning assistant principals, we have the Administrative Development Series, which this year was led by Dr. Franklin. ADS kicks off with a 2-day nuts and bolts in-service during the summer and continues throughout the year with a session each month. As you can see on the screen, our beginning assistant principals and AAs and any other administrator who would like to join us have an opportunity to move past nuts and bolts into practicing data protocols, calibrating walkthrough observations, and taking a much deeper dive into what it really means to be an instructional leader. This year, I had the opportunity to facilitate the Assistant Principals Academy. These participants go through an application process, present passion projects, participate in shadowing experiences, and have the opportunity for personalized coaching and feedback. In this slide, you'll see a seminar that Dr. Davis led on vision. The 2 books that are used for APA are exceptionally powerful in helping participants to pair their vision with their strengths. This is our first year to implement the Instructional Leadership Development Series for induction principals. Mr. Price developed and facilitated this opportunity, which replicated our work with Dr. Morrison in a continued effort to build their capacity as instructional leaders and to continue building a systematic approach throughout our district. PADEPT is a required structure used to help our principals grow. This work is divided by clusters and includes the opportunities shown on the screen. This was our first year with Lead in Excel. We developed this learning opportunity so that our principals would have the opportunity to participate in many learning sessions that include the book study Outlearning the Wolves, along with our continued work with data literacy and cognitive coaching. The title Lead in Excel is derived from our district's mission statement. In addition to our work, our faculty and staff have other opportunities which are included on this next slide. Planning for next steps include AVID for a continued focus on systematic protocols. Speaking of girl power, we're going to develop a Women in Leadership series, and we'll continue our work with accountability to ascertain the effectiveness of our current leadership efforts. This presentation has provided an overview for you in how we are blazing the way to systematic leadership, building and expanding capacity, providing structure for all to pursue their passions, and planning for next steps. In closing, we'd like to share that our goal is that in partnership with our community, we are helping to develop premier leaders for today and tomorrow who are prepared to lead and excel in their chosen pathways. This presentation has been brought to you by the offices of Franklin, Keith, Price, and Shealy.
Very nice.
And we're happy to answer any questions.
Very nice collaboration and picture. Thank you, Dr. Shealy. Are there questions or comments from board members at this time? Dr. Caution Parker.
I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed looking at that and seeing how the program was when I left the district 5 years ago.
If you could move your mic closer to you, Dr. Caution Parker. Thank you so much.
So loud, I don't want you to do this. But when I look at that, there's one thing when I had the leadership development program that I used to always talk to principals about, especially high school principals. When you have assistant principals, everybody sort of gets in a rut as to what their responsibilities are. And to make sure that we're really developing future leaders, they have to have a variety of experiences. And I'm hoping that that's still a focus, still something that you have to just keep reminding, especially high school principals, of make sure that you rotate a lot of the responsibilities. So it's not just one person gaining all the experience, let's say in curriculum and instruction. Right. And there was nothing about facilities. You need to have a well-rounded person. And I know it was kind of difficult at the middle school level when I was principal at middle school level, but at the elementary, it's easier because they have to do everything. But at the high school, they're sort of locked in, and that's one thing that that I learned from Dr. Hefner. You don't put people in a box. And a true sign of leadership, how many leaders have come through you? And I'm proud to say a lot of them came through me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Caution Parker. Are there additional, Dr. Elkins Johnson?
I just want to say thank you for that comment, because that's always been my concern too, that we don't cross-train our administrators. We stick them over in discipline, and that's all you learn, and then you wonder why they're not being promoted to principal because you haven't rotated. So I would love to see us be able to do that. If your curriculum and instruction this year, that maybe next year you have another duty, because we do get stuck in that. And then all of those curriculum and instruction people are becoming principals. And then the discipline people are staying disciplined for the next 15 years. So thank you for that comment.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Are there additional questions or comments? Dr. Holmes?
I'd like this is on a personal note. James Ann Shealy was my daughter's principal when she was way back in elementary school. And I was, I believe, SIC president back then in that day. And I just want to say, I'm so glad that you're taking the helm for this leadership for developing principals and assistant principals, because I remember you from back there in the day. And I used to always tell you all the time, you were my favorite principal for my daughter, because your demeanor and how you handled situations was always professional. And you handled the kids with concern, love, but fairness. And I appreciated that about you. And it's so good to know that sitting on this board that we have a competent person such as yourself developing future leaders and principals. I just wanted to give you that kudos.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes, but it is teamwork. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. Additional questions or comments? And to that end, it's not always what you know, but how you are. So we appreciate that. And just to give a comment, we thank you for your presentation, but I just wanted to set a footnote here. There's a lot that goes into these presentations, the executive staff and the folks who come together to present this information to us. And I try to to ask you if I have things beforehand, like what I don't ask here. But I just want to thank you for not just for this presentation, but there are a lot of people in the room who work hard to make sure, and some not in the room, who work hard to make sure that the information is available and accurate that you present here, and I don't take that for granted. We thank y'all so much. Any other questions or comments from board members? Hearing none, thank you, Dr. Shealy.
Thank you.
Moving on in our agenda, we have arrived at item 10.8, a report on capital improvement update. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Will Anderson will provide a report to you on the capital improvement update as it has become customary once a month. So this is our monthly update for May. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. I'm glad to be the best part of your evening on once a month. Mm-hmm. Laughter. Okay. All right. So we'll get started. This is our monthly update as we continue. A lot's going on, and we want to keep you all up to date on how we're doing. Once again, completion right now is still the North Spring Secure Entrance, but summer will be here in 2 weeks, and so things are going to start ramping up. From last time, our design work, we're still making progress. Our design of lobby security is almost complete. Bid work for half of these projects, we'll be bidding. Construction will start. I should say that back. They're out to bid. Construction will start mid to late June on both of these projects. A couple projects are delayed, but they will not have the opening on the first of the school year, but it'll be more like into September, and that's because of some Office of School Facility concerns, but they are being designed right now. Roofing work will start this summer, and that'll be done, and we're working on the design through those projects as well. We are in the design meetings for our high school stadiums. They keep progressing. We have update meetings next week with those. That picture is the Killian Bus Hub expansion. That will begin construction in September with completion in the end of December, or the 1st of December, for the bus hubs to move to the special need bus hub to move over there. Basically what you're seeing is in the bottom gray is about 200 additional parking spots behind the current bus hub for Killian as well. And then you can see where we are on our HVAC engineering design right now. We are doing some very initial meetings with E.L. Wright and Performing Arts in Forest Lake. We had 2 meetings last week with Richland Northeast Renovation and Ridgeview Renovation. And as I mentioned, we have bid packages out in construction in June for the lobby security and the support service center warehouse. Other projects, buses have been ordered, cameras, we're working through RFP on that right now. We're working through our continued process of updating our windows and film. Fencing will begin on some of our schools this summer. This is a photo of our IT displays, some training going on with our new displays, which has started at a couple of our facilities, and it'll be about a 12 to 18 month process, with a lot of it happening this summer. New interactive displays in every single classroom. As I mentioned, the lobby security entrances, they are well on their way. I don't have a photo of one of those tonight, just for obvious reasons. I don't want to show those, but be happy to show those in a board brief. All projects are still on time and budget. At a future meeting, we'll talk a little bit more about the third bullet, but last Monday, I was unable to be at your budget workshop. I was at the Richland County Recreation Commission, and they agreed to deed over the property to us for Forest Lake. So that was a big plus, and so happy for that to happen, and we'll have more information to come about that as in regards to a MOU. And like I said earlier, summer work June 10th. Well, I should actually say June 7th, since school will be out then. A couple things I wanted to show you real quick on some of the progress we're making, and just real quickly, I'll go through this. This is Blythewood High School, and so we are well in design for Blythewood High School. And what you see on your screen is, and at the bottom is the 5th house down here at the bottom, and for you in the public, I'll do that as well. That's the 5th house addition with classrooms. The entrance of this school is here. Entrance of your school right here. So you walk in. This is the multi-purpose and additional space back here. And I'll do this for you as well. This is the space here, and this is the field house concept. And for Blythewood High School, being so close to all the all the fields right there, the field house concept will be right as an addition to the building. And this other brown piece here is additional restrooms and storage for the athletics there. Mr. Matt Sherman, who's here, and his team have been involved with this for day one. Exciting. We have more information to come. It's going to be an interesting 2 years, as Mr. Sherman is well aware, but we have a plan and we're going to work really hard together to make this work, and we'll have more information to come as we continue that process, but wanted to show you real quickly how the plans are progressing with Blythewood High School. Here's a little picture of the back of Blythewood High School. So what you're seeing is this part right here in the windows, the multi-purpose room, and so that's kind of looking from that angle there. We're almost to schematic design finished, and so we'll start going from there, but construction's supposed to start in January, February, so we're moving right along, more to come. Another school that we've made a lot of progress on is Center for Knowledge North. This is your floor plan for CFK North. What you'll see in the purple up here is the admin suite. In the green is the related arts and the library. And in the brown is your core classroom areas. Once again, Ms. Agee and her staff have been heavily involved since the day one in this design, and we're moving along and still making some tweaks as we get there because we're not into the bid documents yet. We're still in schematic design, so we've got the ability to fluctuate, but that's also moving along very well, and construction will be starting on that as well in February. And here's just a kind of rendering of what it could look like. The front scene kind of fits in with the look of Moeller Road, but has its own look. And we continue to work on that as well. And just a reminder for you all and for the public, we have a very active webpage where all of this is on our website. You can go to richland2.org/bond and find all of our bond projects where we keep this up to date as frequently as possible, but usually once a month. With that, I'll answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Questions from board members?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Shad.
Dr. Davis or Mr. Anderson, I know there was some discussion we had before. This might not be the time to ask, I don't know, but have you looked more into any kind of a feasibility study regarding metal detectors at the school? I know that was a concern.
Based on what we did a
purposes.
few months ago, it's millions and millions of dollars. I don't remember off the top of my head. I can get you that. I can pull the information back up, but it's a lot of costs for us. So at this time, we've determined it's not feasible for the district to go down that step. Yes, sir.
Millions and millions of dollars.
It's a lot of money because you have to, for example, if you have one metal detector, you need at least 5 people to staff it. One on each side, one BN, you need an SRO or an armed deputy there. So that's how long do you staff it for? So it's a lot of cost.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And that's, millions when I start talking about throughout the district.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Mrs. Agostini.
This is just to piggyback on Mr. Shad's question. Is it possible for us to just get that in a board briefing, the information?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'd be happy to do that. I'd be happy to do that. Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Board members? Just wanted to thank you for the information. You promised to give this information to us on a regular basis. I appreciate that. I'm also just wanted to make a statement to say that I appreciate your being mindful of the timing. I'm not sure that everyone who's listening knows that this is not going at just a contractor schedule, but you're very mindful of when students are in the building, when they're not, and making sure that the development schedule it has a lot to do with when the students are there with regard to student safety and when they're not. So I'm glad things are running on time, but I'm also glad you're very mindful of that in that process. And I know you can't share every single detail because you'd be here all night, but that's just one thing I wanted to share, that I appreciate your mindfulness with regard to timing.
You're welcome. And we will communicate more with our parents. I mean, it's going to be a challenge on these active school sites where we're doing constructions, but we'll make sure that it's highly communicated and everyone knows what's going on. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right. Moving on to item 11.1, agenda items for June 11th, 2019. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the board, you've had an opportunity to review the June 11, 2019 future agenda items. In executive session, we'll have contractual matters regarding Recreation Commission's D, the contractual matter regarding the charter school, student appeals, adult education requests, should there be any special recognitions, legislative updates, should there be one. We'll ask for the approval of the policies we brought before you this evening. In addition to that, the policy EEA, student transportation, will be back before you for approval. We'll have the part-time and substitute professional staff employment, professional staff development, which is GCI, and then GCKA, the support staff reduction in force. GCMD, the instructional staff extra days, GCNA, supervision of instructional staff, and GCO, evaluation of administrative staff. Prior to that, we'll give clarification on the promotion question that was raised by Ms. Agostini to the board in a board brief. And should there be any follow-up questions, we'll be ready to entertain those questions. We'll also be proposing new policies, which will be GDQB, resignation of support staff, GDO, evaluation of support staff, GD, support classified staff, GCA, the professional staff positions, GCCAF, professional staff academic leave, GDBC, support staff supplementary pay / overtime, and GCD, administrative staff vacations and holidays. Well, in addition to that, we'll have a third quarter financial report as well.
Thank you, Dr. Davis, for sharing the agenda items for the June 11th, 2019 board meeting, which will be after school is over and graduations have been held. Moving on to item 12.1, approval.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Dr. Elkins Johnson.
I just have a question. Dr. Davis, is it possible that we could get those policies the day after the board meeting, since you already have them in advance, instead of the Thursday prior to a board meeting?
We'll work on getting them as soon as
And therefore,
possible.
we have more time to go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Moving on to item 12.1, approval of agenda items for June 11th, 2019. We'll receive a motion at this time.
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Agostini.
I move to amend the proposed agenda to include Richland 2 bond attorney to come and discuss in executive session the modifications for the POS and signature of no litigation. And also, I noticed on the draft that I believe it's policy EEAG. The transportation policy was not included on the draft of the agenda.
I'll second.
You actually read it. There's a motion on the floor. It's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Hearing Dr. Caution Barker.
I have a question for Ms. Agostini about her request of having the bond attorney come to our executive session. Now, is this time that we have to pay her for because she is an attorney? Do we have to pay her for that? Is there something that is so out of kilter that we just need to have her there? Is this in regards to the letter that a few weeks ago that Dr. Davis gave to all of us, sent to all of us regarding her decisions?
Well, I think Dr. Davis will need to address the fee issue, but yes, it is in regard to the letter that was sent to us so that we can have clarification and understanding of her intent and a full discussion on why the board was not informed that these changes or modifications were made. But I think it's best to be handled in executive session.
Board members, there's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the question at this time.
Now, the motion is up here to vote, but also did we add the policy to this as well?
Yeah, I think he read the policy. He included, you were just saying to have it written down? Yeah, because he actually did read the policy. He did indicate that that would be on the agenda.
Oh, okay, Madam Chair.
Dr. Caution Parker.
Clarification here with the fog. When we vote on this, are we voting with the same comments that are the amendment that Mrs. Agostini requested? So if we agree with part but not all of it, we just vote against it. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Shad.
I'm sorry for the discussion, and please forgive me for not responding until now, but I just had to go to board policy. I don't know if what Ms. Agostini is asking for is an executive session matter. I know in terms of receiving legal advice, I know that's one option, and that would be from our district attorney. But for the bond attorney to come in an executive session, what are we asking our bond attorney for? Because that's definitely not asking for legal advice, which is allowed and is already taken care of by our district attorney.
Yes, that's correct.
So maybe I need some clarification from Mrs. Agostini, and especially if legally we can actually do that. Is that even an executive session item by state law?
And Dr.
Thank you,
Davis
Mr. Shad.
might need to help me on this, but when I had brought it up before, I understood the suggestion for her to come and speak during executive session. I think it's contractual matter, and she is a board attorney. So it would be getting legal advice.
The contracts have already been signed. So we will be bringing her in for a point of clarification, as you just stated, to ask her questions about her opinion. I provided the board with her statements in writing, which was specifically in her wording of us to why the language was the way that it was, and provided clarification that no document was amended, that the document was received in its original format with that specific language in there, and she gave the explanation why in writing, and I provided that information to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Dr. Elkins Johnson.
I guess my concern would be is when there's a board member who's making a request, I think out of respect for the board member's request, whether we agree with it or not, we should be allowed to have that conversation in executive session rather than have it in public. And I think if board members have concerns about any issue, we should show the respect, just like Dr. Davis shows the respect when his executive staff gets up here and he answers their questions or he clarifies things. I think as board members, when we want clarification, we should be able to have that. And I think as board members, we need to show more support when there's a board member who wants more clarification and not be so judgmental. Allow that person to have it. Dr. Davis supports his staff. We have to support each other whether we agree or disagree. But bring that person in and give us the clarity that we need, because the constituents, they voted for us. And when they come to us and they have questions, we need to have clarifying answers and not try to hide behind things and give them the answers whether they like it or not.
Madam Chair.
Dr. Caution Parker, and then Mr. Shad.
Couple of things. Number one, nobody's hiding behind nothing. Number two, when we make a decision that we're going to have an executive session, we shouldn't be discussing it all out here in public. I'm clear on the matter, and I believe most of the board members are. And we've already said that when it's just one member that's requesting something, we need to all be together or we don't do it at all. When I say all together, I mean the majority. All do it together or we don't do it at all. I, for one, think it's a waste of time. It's been sent out to all of us in writing. I think that the point of clarification, maybe we can have Mrs. Agostini to write her question, her concerns, and have the attorney address it. I just think it's a waste of time. I think it's a waste of district funds, especially if we have to pay for Franny to come in and explain everything to us that she's already put in writing to us. I'm not for it.
Mr. Shad is next.
Madam
Dr.
Chair,
Caution Parker.
just to address the last comment that was made, if the public is asking for clarification from us, I would caution this board that any discussions in executive session must remain secret. We are not allowed to share with the public discussions that are made in executive session. So even if the public may have a question or concern, if we receive this information perhaps from a bond counsel in executive session, we are bound not to even discuss what was said in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just say for a point of clarification.
Hold on, Dr. Elkins Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Dr. Elkins
I
Johnson.
don't think we received this in executive session. This is something that was discussed. And again, I'm going to state that we have all been elected by the people. And if there are questions and concerns that we have, whether you agree or disagree, you need to allow your colleague to get their questions addressed. What's important to you may not be important to other people. So allow them the opportunity to get it addressed. And Mr. Shad, to your point, I think we all are aware if something is in executive session, it stays there. So this was not an executive session. This was something public because she normally comes here to the public mic and address this. So let's just be clear on executive session and public conversation.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood you. I thought you said at the end that the public wants clarification about this issue. So if we go into executive session and receive that information, then we'll be better equipped to share that information with the public. But if I misunderstood you, I apologize.
No problem. And maybe Mrs. Agostini need to request that it's public and not executive session.
Questions or concerns? Additional discussion? And just a point of a clarification that Mrs. Agostini did have questions or concerns that she shared with her attorney, and actually Franny, our bond attorney, did actually provide feedback to you. She has done that. So let me clarify that. If there's no additional discussion, there is a motion on the floor from Mrs. Agostini to amend the agenda items for the June 11th, 2019 board meeting to add an attorney to the executive session item. If there's no other question, we'll call for the question this time. If there's no more discussion, we'll call for the question at this time.
Just a clarification again.
Dr. Elkins Johnson.
Mrs. Agostini, did you want this in executive session or public?
I would prefer it in executive session, please.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Board members, there's a motion on the floor. If you've already cast your vote, you can indicate that this time. If not, Mr. Shad, go ahead. Mr. Shad.
Well, I just want to be clear. It says approve the meeting with amendments. There's only one amendment though, right? Oh, it's just got pulled? Okay.
Mrs. Agostini, can you confirm that the motion as it appears on the screen is accurate as you have requested?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. He read EEG. It wasn't written on the agenda, but he actually read it. He did include it in his summary. But he included it. Have all board members cast their votes at this time? She had to redo it, so she sent another prompt. Have all board members cast their votes at this time? By a vote of 3-3, the motion fails. Yes, it does. If it's not in the majority, the motion fails. The motion fails. At this time, we're happy to entertain another motion with regard to the agenda items for the June 11th, 2019 board meeting.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Shad.
I move that we approve the proposed agenda for the June 11th, 2019 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. It's been seconded by Dr. Holmes. It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Here. To approve the agenda items for the June 11th, 2019 meeting, as presented by Dr. Davis. And actually, I was going to call for the question, but we actually have a pop-up. So if all board members would please cast their votes at this time. By a vote of 4-2, the motion passes. Moving on to item 13.1, specifically public participation. We have actually been able to accommodate all persons who requested to speak before the board tonight in the first opportunity for public participation, so we won't need to enter into a period of a second public participation. So we will move on to item 14.1, board and superintendent comments. Mrs. Agostini.
First, I want to thank all of our parent advocates that came out tonight, and also to Mr. Dyer for coming out and sharing with us your concerns. As we enter the home stretch, I hope everyone had an enjoyable long weekend. I do believe that we are the land of the free because of the brave. As a former military wife, I want to thank all of those who have given their lives for our freedom. And then finally, I just want to show my gratitude to Richland 2. Last week, my son Thomas graduated from Washington and Lee. He was a cum laude. He went to parochial school prior to coming into Richland 2. It was TLC that made it cool for a young boy to be smart. So grateful for all of his teachers who have inspired him, who have given him confidence, and also shown him to be a leader. And since he was 11 years old, he's always aspired to be a doctor. And in the fall, he will be attending MUSC. So thank you, Richland 2, for all you did and have done for my son.
Mr. Shad.
Dr. Thomas, all right. That sounds good. Congratulations. Thank you for the wonderful presentations. Thank you, Mrs. Mackey, for the Facing the Giants inspirational moment. I always love that piece. Thank you, Dr. Franklin, for having my tissue ready for me. And one of the themes that I got out of there was do your very best, your very best. The coach kept repeating it. And what I pulled from that, which I believe is appropriate now as we are in the home stretch, is we had a coach or a mentor, an adult, a teacher who just kept pushing the student. The player continued to go as the coach kept pushing them. No matter how great the weight or how large the obstacle, he kept doing it. And at the end, after all his energy was spent, the coach poured back into him and told him what a leader he is. And oftentimes when I have conversations with young people, I tell them that they are leaders. It just depends on how you're leading them. Are they going to lead you? Are you leading them down the wrong path or the right path? And that's typically what you see with those who misbehave. Typically, they are the leaders. They're the ones who folks are looking at and they can be followed. But if you're able to change the direction of that student, a lot of great things can happen. And the coach specifically asked, can I count on you? That was a question, but the coach already knew the answer, that he obviously could count on him. And so, again, going back to the theme of your very best, parents, we know that we get your very best. And our faculty and administration, they strive to do their very best with your children. And our goal is for every student to do their best and achieve their best for this very short time that we have with them in Richland District 2. And congratulations to our scholars and their families who have met the requirements for the state and are going to be graduating very, very soon. And for those who have not reached that point yet, please understand that the summer slide is a very real thing. So we encourage our parents to make sure that your kids are still reading, maybe after the first week of a break. But please get them back in somewhat of a routine in terms of math and reading and other things so that they'll be at their very best coming back for the 2019-2020 school year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Dr. Elkins Johnson.
Congratulations, Lindsay, to your son, Thomas. We are all so proud of him as a Richland 2 graduate. And as a former teacher of Pontiac Elementary and assistant principal at Rice Creek, I'm so excited for graduation. I get a chance to see all of my parents from Pontiac and from Rice Creek, the Creek. Michelle helped me out. We were the Creek, right? Thank you. So I'm so excited to see you guys out at graduation, to give you hugs and cards. And I did save my money. I always save it every year for graduation to make sure that I give my former students something. So I'm so proud of all of you, and thank you, parents, for all that you do.
Dr. Elkins Johnson. I'm sorry, Dr. Caution Parker.
I'm sure you're about tired of hearing me this evening. But anyway, I want to thank the district for the great recognitions this evening. That's always a nice part of of our board meeting, and the presentations as well, and the lively discussions. We're not going to always agree, but we can agree to disagree, and that's that. And I'm looking forward to our marathon graduations, next week. When I retired 5 years ago this month, the first thing I said, I'm through with all the graduations. No, I'm back again, but they're a wonderful time for all of us to see our former students come through, and parents come through again, and recognize our outstanding students here at Richland School District 2. This is what it's all about. The kids. That's the bottom line. So, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Caution Parker. Dr. Holmes.
I'd like to say congratulations to all those that won awards tonight. And I'm going to take a personal note. Warren Wise, the STEM Teacher of the Year, I've known Warren for years. When he was the first teacher, I worked with him in Richland School District 1. And then I passed him along to my husband, the late Dr. Jacob Arthur Holmes Jr. And he became Warren's mentor because he was a science major himself before he went into administration in Richland 1. And he used to always call Warren, that's my son, my son, And when Warren won that award, I went to him, I said, Jake would be so proud of you. He said, yeah, because he really was like a father figure to me and a mentor to me. So we take ownership of Warren, and we're super proud of him. And Jake, that's for you. You did a good job with them. Also, I'd like to thank everybody else, and I'm so excited about the graduations. I'm a Richland 2 graduate myself, Spring Valley High School. I'm not going to tell you how long ago, but many years ago. But I was student body vice president then, and I sat on that stage many, many years ago. And to sit up there now as a board member, I'm real honored, not just for the Spring Valley graduates, but for all the graduates that are going to come through there. I'm real excited to be a part of that. And lastly, also to all those people that spoke up tonight at the meeting. Unfortunately, the cell phone tower thing predated me being on this board, but I just have to take a personal note to say that I want you to know that I am sincerely concerned about the towers. I hear you and I understand. I got you. And on that note, I would like to wish everybody else a very happy summer. Thank you, all of you all who have been here, and all the staff that stay so late. And I know, because it's been a long day. I've been up since 6 o'clock myself because I work in another school district, so I get it. We're tired. But thank you for all that you do. And thank you all of you all who came out tonight. We appreciate you. And have a great summer.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to take this opportunity to again, thank our board for another great meeting. It's 2 consecutive meetings that we have just done an outstanding job of getting to the business of conducting the board's meeting in the public. And so I really appreciate all that you all have done to get through and help us get through these policies. There's been some great questions, some great discussions, and I'm very appreciative of what you've done to make sure that happens. I also want to take an opportunity to thank our parents and our teachers for continuing to have a spirit of advocacy. And most importantly, advocating with a spirit of passion and compassion, and not having a spirit of contention, a contentious spirit. But as you stand before the podium and express your feelings and concerns and your advocacy, you can clearly see that you are doing it from a position of love, a position of concern, and it resonates and it comes across. And so I just want to say thank you for removing the contentious spirit as you step to the podium to address your concerns with us, because although we may not necessarily see things from the same perspective, in the end, our goal is to do what's best for the students of Richland School District 2. And I'm just proud to be the superintendent and have you all come before us and share your thoughts and concerns with us at these board meetings. In addition to that, I had an opportunity on yesterday, to attend the laying of the wreath at Fort Jackson's National Cemetery, and had an opportunity to listen to General Beagle share remarks as he related and shared remarks to the families of those fallen heroes of this great nation. And his remarks centered around having a spirit of love. And being a family, and it resonated with me very strongly, because we are a community. But I also just want to take the time to say thank you to those who have come before us and have paid the ultimate sacrifice, and to those families, because I know for you that it's Memorial Day every day. But we are so thankful that your loved ones have provided us with the safety and securities that we often take for granted here in this country. So I just want to say thank you for being a part of our Richland 2 family and the fort. In addition, as been stated earlier, graduation is right around the corner. And so Ridgeview High School and Spring Valley High School seniors will be graduating on Wednesday, June 5th, followed by Westwood, Richland Northeast, and Blythewood High School on Thursday, June 6th at Colonial Life Arena. So we'll have about 1,900 seniors preparing to receive their diplomas. Commencement exercises for graduates of Richland 2 Charter High School and W.R. Rogers will be on June 4th at the District Auditorium. Richland 2 is hiring. So from 9 to 11 on Monday, June the 17th, the Human Resource Department staff will be here at R2I2 taking applications and conducting interviews for all positions, for an all positions career fair. Job seekers should register online as soon as possible. And annual registration is now open. Parents of returning students must complete this registration online through your parent portal account. Parents without access to a computer should contact your child's school to schedule an appointment to complete the registration. And our district will once again operate on a 4-day work week beginning on Monday, June the 10th. Schools and offices will be open to the public Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The 5-day work week will resume on August the 5th. And thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. The beauty of going last is that I can say ditto to most of what's been said with regard to the thanks to our speakers. And I made a list. I went down Twitter a week or so ago, and I was making a list of staff members in school and students and educators who'd gotten awards, and they've all been presented. So I could scratch through that list. They've all been presented here tonight. So I appreciate that. Just wanted to as always, thank everyone for being here. Some of you have to be here, some of you don't. But for the folks that choose to be here and stay on top of our board issues and policies and wanting to know what's going on in the district, bless you for that. I can remember a time when I did that as well, when I was a parent on that side of the podium. I just wanted to say something publicly. I get every so often when we have policies that have been tweaked or revised or that are brought up here, I get some questions and concerns from people who are willing to share with me when I'm going to come out, and check on so-and-so. Our job is to set policy. We trust our superintendent, and his staff to enforce that. So I'm not policing anybody. If anyone's concerned about any policies that come here, our job is to set policy, and we trust the superintendent and his staff to execute that. I'm thankful to Dr. Davis and his leadership team for the tenacious task of digging deep into these policies and working to ensure that they are accurate and they're applicable. Sometimes it takes some heavy lifting to kind of sift through and make sure that's applicable to us, but I appreciate that. Don't take it lightly. And finally, that we respect all of you and each other. Just because we don't vote a certain way doesn't speak to anyone's lack of respect of anyone, or more respect because you do vote in favor. You vote your heart when you sit here. You do what you think is best. And it's not personal. It's about the policies and how you believe in them. So I don't want anyone to think that anyone's not respectful because you don't vote a certain way. It's okay. It's your individual heart. But just thank you all for being here tonight. Bless you. Happy to get out at a decent hour, and you all have a wonderful evening. I'm sorry. We actually have to entertain a motion
Madam
to
Chair.
adjourn. Never have a problem there.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Shad.
I move that we adjourn the May 28, 2019 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Hearing no discussion, I can say that the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great evening.